This is a Sandy Boy Productions podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Why Is Everyone Yelling with Lyndsee Wunn. I'm your host Lyndsee. Thank you so much for being here today. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. This podcast is part of the Sandy Boy Productions podcast network. One of the other shows that I personally host is called I'll Have Another with Lyndsee Wunn, and that is a show where I interview professional runners and sometimes everyday runners as well. So if you're into the running thing, go check it out. On this podcast, I talk to experts and everyday parents and hope to bring you encouragement and some relatability to the ups and downs of parenting. And mostly, I just hope you know that with whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through in your parenting journey, you are not alone. Someone has been through what you've been through. So today's episode is episode 78, and my guest is Lyndsee Wunn. This is an incredible human being that I am so excited to introduce you to her. Lyndsee is the founder of Boxes of Love, which is a grassroots effort to provide babies and children entering foster care from local hospitals with a large box of new clothing, pajamas, shoes, and other comfort items to call their own. Okay, so Lyndsee is a pediatric nurse, and she saw a shocking number of babies and children who would enter the foster care system with nothing but the clothes on their backs. And so after adopting her own son, who she and her husband fostered for 2 years, Lyndsee knew she had to do something to change the way so many children enter the foster care system. This is where this amazing nonprofit organization started. Lyndsee's going to talk to us about being a foster parent, adopting her son, and what Boxes of Love means to her and who they're helping in their local community. Lyndsee is still a nurse, and she is running this nonprofit. It's a labor of love for her. She's just running this with her whole heart, and she has encouraged me in this episode to get involved, do something that feels important, do something that feels right, and not delay. I hope you feel that from her as well. Every single one of us can make an impact. And it doesn't have to be starting a big nonprofit like Lyndsee. It doesn't have to be something like that. But we can do something that will bring purpose to our lives. I think that's what we're all looking for. That's what I'm looking for every day. A purpose, a bigger purpose. And so this episode inspired me, and I believe it's going to inspire you as well. Definitely sync up with Lyndsee and let her know if you've been moved by this episode today. You can find Boxes of Love on Instagram. It's Boxes of Love Project over there. And I want to just give a shout out. Thank you, Ashley DeSano, for suggesting Lyndsee for the podcast. I know Ashley from my running podcast and things that I do with that. And I was looking for guests for the Illuminate podcast, actually, which is another show that we have several hosts on. And I host every so often, like once every 5 weeks. And I was looking for guests that had inspiring stories for the Illuminate podcast. And Ashley suggested Lyndsee. But when I recorded the episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get this in front of my Why Is Everyone Yelling audience as well, because it's just too good. It just checks the Illuminate box and the Why Is Everyone Yelling box. So thank you, Ashley, for suggesting Lyndsee for the podcast. All right, friends, if you love this show, share it with your friends. Share it with your community that is in this parenting thing or anybody helping raise kids, because man, I hope that we can get this podcast in more ears so that we can be an encouragement to more people in this world. So sharing it, leaving a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify, those are huge ways you can help grow this show. I thank you so much for listening. I'm so glad you're here, and please enjoy my conversation with Lyndsee Wunn. All right. Well, today on the podcast, we have Lyndsee Wunn on the show. Welcome to the show, Lyndsee.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on the show. I'm inspired by your story. Let's just catch the listeners up a little bit about who you are. You live in Portland with your husband and your 2 kids, right?
Yep.
And you're a nurse by trade, and you've founded this amazing nonprofit called Boxes of Love. So maybe just share with us a little bit about your story to becoming a nurse first.
Yeah. So I became a nurse, I think I'm entering my 18th year. So about 18 years ago, became a nurse, and always knew I wanted to do pediatrics. There wasn't ever really a question in my mind. And so I ended up getting the number one job that I wanted, and had got a job at a children's hospital, and actually ended up meeting my husband there. He's also a nurse there.
Oh, wow.
And yeah. So met there, and ended up obviously getting married. We tried for a long time to get pregnant and had a lot of struggles, had to do some fertility stuff, and took a really, really long time, but did end up having our first son. And after he was a couple years old and we decided we wanted another kiddo, we kind of tried again and just were not having any luck. And we thought, well, let's just change gears for a minute. And we both had lots of experience seeing babies and kids come into the hospital on their way to foster care. And so those situations are either a baby's born to a mom who is struggling with drug addiction, mental illness, there's, abuse in the home, something like that. So those babies are born, and then immediately DHS takes control of the baby. And then the baby's usually in the NICU before being placed in a foster home. Or the other situation, which I saw more just because I worked on the pediatric floor, are children coming in for severe abuse, severe malnutrition, neglect, like the worst of the worst stories that you could think of. And they are removed from their home, but they need hospital treatment. So then they come to the hospital and we do whatever they need to get them better. And then they move on to a foster home. So we were seeing this on a very regular basis. And we thought, well, maybe we could be foster parents. Like, we really didn't have any idea what all that entailed, but we thought, well, sure, let's try it. We have the room in our home. We want to love a child, and we have the medical background. So let's do it. So very, very, very long story short, we did all the process to get certified. It took like 6 to 9 months, I believe, to get fully certified. And our paperwork was like completed on a Monday, and they called Wednesday and said, could you pick up a baby tomorrow?
Oh my gosh.
We were like, okay. So we were thrown in very quickly, and we brought home a baby. And this is kind of like the very long story short part, but we fostered him for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And there were lots of ups and downs, and we had visits with his biological dad, who was trying to work to get him. His mom, at the time that we had him, was in prison the whole time, so we didn't have visits with her. And anyway, the dad realized that he just wasn't going to be able to raise him, which truly was the best decision for him. And so right before he turned 2, we were able to officially adopt him. So that's our second son. And we adopted him. And then my husband and I talked, and he felt very strongly at that point that we were not going to foster anymore, just because it was a very, it was a hard journey. It's emotional. It is, you're kind of at the mercy of DHS. They make the decisions, even though you are essentially the parent of the child, and those decisions don't always line up to what you think is best for the child. So it's hard. It is a hard job. And we decided together that wasn't going to be what we were going to do. But I just felt really, really strongly that it wasn't the end of my story with foster care. I just felt this need to do more. Like, I wasn't done with it. And so I just kind of sat and thought for a long time, like, what could I do? Just me, one person. And there's a lot of things that I think need to be reworked and revamped in the foster care system. But at the time. And when I started it, it's like, I'm one person. I don't really have time right now to like change legislation and,
Right.
do that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, going back to these kids and babies in the hospital, they come in and they usually just have the clothes on their back, right? They're removed in usually an urgent manner, or the babies are just, born and stay there. And they don't have all their things. They don't have clean clothes to put on. They don't have their favorite stuffed animal. They don't have a toothbrush. They don't have usually anything. And I just would think how terrifying that would be. First of all, you're removed from the only family you know. You're in a hospital with strange people and you have none of your things. You don't know what's going to happen to you. So I thought, well, maybe that's something I could change. And I had this idea of making a big box full of things that this child could have, to have and to take with them wherever they ended up going. And so I kind of put this plea out there on Facebook, and, social media is both a curse and a blessing, but it took over and took off, and people started donating stuff. And so this was back in 2014. And here we are this far later. We've now given out 800 and almost 50 boxes of love. And it's really just taken off and become a real thing. It's sometimes I just am still in shock that I've actually created a legitimate nonprofit organization where people give money and we, we're doing this thing that I imagined. So that is sort of the basis of how it started.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love your sentiments on like, I'm done with this part of what I'm going to do with foster care, but that doesn't mean I can't do something else. Because I think people get super overwhelmed by that notion. Like, I don't think my family can handle fostering, but there are other ways to support the foster care system.
Absolutely. And, I tell people that all the time, because yes, no, not everyone can be a foster parent. That's a fact, and that's okay. But everyone can do something. Literally everyone can do something. Even it can be as small as sharing the Boxes of Love website with somebody.
Right.
Like, everybody can do something. You can tell our story, because you might tell our story to someone who's like, oh, I've been looking for a place to donate, or whatever. Like, that's free. That doesn't cost any money. So you can do that all the way up to, donating money, donating items, donating your time, delivering boxes for us, all the way up to, yes, being a foster parent. But yeah, there's just this huge continuum of ways that you can help that go far beyond just being a foster parent. And so I just always encourage people, even if you don't have money, even if you don't have, the means to be a foster family, there are ways you can help.
What was the hardest part of fostering? It's a big question, I know.
That's a big question. But it's an important question. And, I like to be really honest about it. A lot of people say, I hear this so often, I could never be a foster parent because I would get too attached. Mm-hmm. And my response to that is exactly what should happen. You should get too attached, in quotation marks, to these kids, because we want children in foster care to go to a family where they are loved as if they were that family's own child, right? We don't want a foster child to go to a family where there's this distance. Like, I'm not going to get attached to you because it's going to be too hard
for me. Leave. Yeah.
It's going to be too hard for me. Exactly. But it is hard. I mean, it is hard. I think it's especially hard when you get an infant and you are the only parent that infant has ever known. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many different situations, and it's much different when you, let's say, have an 8-year-old child come into your home who, even though that child is in maybe a really bad situation, that child is still with its parents. Mm-hmm. That child is with, they still love their parents. Those are the only people that they know. So they come to a foster home. It's like they still have that relationship with their parents. with an infant, it's like, you're the only parent this baby's ever known. And so of course that baby comes to our home, and, we're instantly in love with him, and are raising him like our own child, which is, again, what you should do. So there were times when it was a very real possibility that he was going to leave our home after 18 months. And thinking about that at times brought me to my knees, to be honest, because it was just like thinking of what that was going to do to me, thinking of him being afraid. But I would just go back to the ultimate goal of foster care at all times is reunification with the biological family. Whether you agree with that or not, as a foster parent, that is the goal. So you have to go into it knowing that, knowing that is the goal, is to get this child back with their biological family. But it's hard. It is hard, and it will break your heart. It can break your heart, but you just have to know that, I just would tell myself constantly that we gave him, if he was going to leave our home, we gave him the best start in life that we possibly could. We taught him that his needs would be met. We taught him how to love and how to trust us, and, how to be in a family. And I just kind of had to trust that. It wasn't easy. I'm not going to lie and say it was totally fine, because it's hard when you think about this baby that you have raised leaving. But ultimately that is the goal, and we knew that. And if he did leave, I just had to know that was the plan for him, and that we did the best we could. Ultimately for us, it worked out differently, and he ended up staying with us. But that's just my biggest thing to a potential foster family is we want you to get too attached. It's not about you, even though it feels that way, because you are making a huge sacrifice. You are investing so much into this child. So it is a little bit about you, but ultimately it's about this child. And what better gift could you give a child than to love them unconditionally and be too attached? Like, that's what they need.
Yeah, I've seen, I don't know if it's shirts, or I've seen something that says like get too attached, or
yeah.
Is that a thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've kind of seen that too. And yeah, because it's just, I feel like there's so many amazing people and families out there who could potentially be foster families. But this notion of, I would get too attached would be so hard for me, prevents people from doing that. Which is unfortunate, because again, like I said, that's what they need. They need you to be too attached. They need you to love them like they're your own child, and to be devastated if they leave. To be devastated, but also rejoice in the fact that they, get to be reunified, and that would, be a success story.
Tell us about the day that you were able to adopt your son.
Oh, it's like one of my favorite days. It in foster care, things are ever changing. You can be told something one day, and the plan completely switches the next day, right? So you are kind of always holding your breath, like waiting for the shoe to drop, and you don't really, I don't want to say you don't believe things, but you don't plan until it's like happening, just because it changes so often. And so we found out that his biological father was going to relinquish his parental rights, a few months before we actually adopted him. But again, it was like, we got that piece of news, and I felt, this, it's kind of, it's really weird and interesting in foster care, because while of course I was like overjoyed that we were going to get to adopt him, there's also this really sad part. You think like this person is signing away the rights to their child. And the mom was also going to have to do the same thing from prison, which is where she was at the time. And even though I knew it was best for him to be here with us, there's this part of me that was just like devastated, thinking like, putting myself in those shoes, like, could you, sign away the rights to your child because that you can't raise them right now. And that's just, a heartbreaking part. And luckily in our situation, our son didn't know any of that. He did, he didn't know that. But again, with a lot of older kids, that's a huge piece of it, because while they might end up being adopted, and that's a great situation, and both child and adoptive family are happy about it, there is still a huge loss, and especially for kids who are older and who grew up with their parents, their biological parents, and know them and have relationships, that is just a big piece of it. So there was mixed emotions. Of course, just thinking about his biological family and how, that would impact them for the rest of their lives. But of course, I was also, overjoyed because we had raised this baby. He was our son. I mean, he was exactly the same as our biological son. And so, anyway, back to my thing though. We were told it was going to happen, but I was like, I'm not holding my breath until it happens, because I know things can change. And it took about 4 or 5 months from when we were told his dad was going to relinquish the rights to actually having a day on the calendar. And, I was just waiting for someone to call me and say, just joking. Something happened. So I was very hesitant and nervous up to that day. And then on the actual adoption day, it was just, for people who've never been to an adoption ceremony, it's just like the happiest moment, because, people give birth, and that is obviously a super happy moment. It's undescribable. But the adoption day was just so beautiful, and something I'll never forget, because every single person in that room, we had friends and family, lawyers and his advocates, and all of these people are there, for him, and they are just all overjoyed that this is happening. And it was so nice to just have that support. I mean, the judge, gave him a teddy bear and just talked about how happy she was that this was his story. And I mean, he was only 2. He didn't know what was really going on, but just to have all these people there for him and there to acknowledge him. Because the thing with a lot of babies born into foster care in particular is they're born, and there's generally, a lot of times, there's not a baby shower. They don't come home to big stock nurseries. They don't have that kind of grand entrance into the world that a lot of babies do, right? Because they're often born into turmoil or, just situations that are stressful and not going well. And so the babies kind of miss out on that sort of grand entrance into the world with all this support and people coming to visit and bringing gifts and food and all these things. And so to have this adoption ceremony, I felt like all these people around him, just for him saying, we love you and we're your family and we're all here for you for the rest of your life, was just super, super special.
Hey everybody, a quick break here. Finding a doctor and booking a doctor who's right for you doesn't need to be a terrible experience. Will they take your insurance, understand your needs, or be available when you can see them? With ZocDoc, the answer can be refreshingly pain-free. Yes. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Every month, millions of people use ZocDoc. You can go to ZocDoc.com, choose a time slot, and whether you want to see the doctor in person or do a video visit. And just like that, you're booked. Go to ZocDoc.com/yelling and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc.com/yelling. ZocDoc.com/yelling. What is life like now?
Life is crazy. Like we were just saying, you've got 4 boys. I've only got 2, but it's just a normal life. other than the fact that I am a little bit overwhelmed at times because I do still work as a nurse. I have 2 boys. I'm a wife. And then I run this nonprofit organization. And so it's crazy at times, but I love it. And
this is like passion project for you. Like you're running this salary free.
Yes.
Which is like a big thing to note. I mean, this is a good percentage of your life.
Yeah, it is. And people all the time are like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I just do. But yeah, I
still nursing to pay the bills.
Nursing to pay the bills. And then at the Boxes of Love building, whenever I have, free time, I do have volunteers who are lovely and wonderful.
Awesome.
But yeah, we don't have any, no paid employees. Everyone is just giving of their time. And there are times when I'm overwhelmed and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, what have I started? Can I keep doing this? But then it evens out. And it's just, for me, when I go into the building and I'm doing stuff, it's almost like stress relief for me. It's just, I don't know, it's just peaceful and, folding baby clothes and kids' clothes and organizing and packing these boxes and just realizing what it means to both the kids and the foster families that are receiving them, always gives me the boost to like get over the stress. If there's stress there, it's just like, okay, I go in and I'm like, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is how we're going to do it. And, just keep going and keep moving forward. But yeah, it's definitely a labor of love, but I love it. And that's, why I keep doing it. The notes and emails that I receive from foster families, are just so touching and are the reason that we keep going, because you can just see and feel how meaningful these boxes are. We give them out and don't often hear back, but when we do hear back, it's just like, okay, we're doing the right thing. This is exactly why I started this project, is for these kids to make sure that they feel loved and make sure that they feel like they matter and that, they're not defined by their circumstance, that they can go on and do and be great things. And that this stuff is theirs and it is theirs to do what they want with. And, it matters. And the notes that we get from foster parents telling us how the boxes are impacting the kids they speak volumes, I guess.
Yeah.
And the other piece of it that I didn't really, when I first started the project, I was very sort of tunnel vision, like this is for the kids, which it very much is, like, but that was kind of like my vision. This is for the kids. It's for them, to have all this new, and everything in our boxes is new. And
nice.
that's intentional because we just think that they deserve it. They deserve to have new things. And a lot of resources out there for foster kids tend to be used things, which is okay. I'm not opposed to used things, but we just really felt like a huge box valued at over $500 worth of things. They deserve it. And it's, for some of these kids, honestly, I had one kiddo who was able to articulate to his foster family that he'd never received anything new in his life. And so this box of stuff was, super, super meaningful. But anyway, as I was doing the project, I started to see as well how impactful the boxes were to the foster families, because many of these people are saying yes and opening their doors to a child with maybe a few hours notice, maybe up to a day or two, sometimes in the middle of the night. A police officer is dropping a child off at their door. And so they have just said, like, these boxes are so helpful because they eliminate like immediately needing to run to Target and grab, bottles and bibs and outfits and diapers, or for the bigger kids, just going to get some clothes. Like the boxes, you've got everything you need for those first few days in foster care in a lot of these boxes. So that piece it wasn't surprising, I guess, because I was a foster parent and I knew that these kids come with nothing, and I knew I just wasn't quite as focused on that. But now we, understand that it's super helpful for the foster families as well. And we stick a little, we have this awesome partnership with Black Rock Coffee, and they give us free drink coupons for the foster parents.
Oh,
and
that's so nice.
Yeah, we just stick a little handwritten note in there to the foster parents with a couple free drinks, just saying, like, we know this is a hard job and you can often feel alone, and we just want you to know we see you and appreciate you, and go get a treat, and remember that you have a community of people that support you. Because what I've learned in this is, if we don't take care of our foster families as well, they won't keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And we won't have any foster families for these kids, which is a huge crisis. So we just like to let them know that they're not alone, and we, appreciate what they are doing as well.
Yeah, I'm like emotional just thinking about opening that up and like seeing the coffee coupons and the handwritten note. Like, I can't even imagine what that would mean. I think about purpose a lot, and it's like sometimes I get busy with work and just like, what's my real purpose though? And I think that people struggle with that. You go through day-to-day life like you're on a hamster wheel, and what's the real purpose? And doing something like this, like, to me, it sounds like you figured out what one of your biggest purposes in your life is. And that, as hard as you work, is a gift. Like, man, it's a gift to have a purpose so strong. So I wonder if you could just share with the listener just some words on how to find your purpose and what that could mean, to dig a little bit deeper. It's easy to keep going through the days and thinking, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, this organization or this thing could use attention, but I'm going to keep recording my interviews and taking my kid to practice. It's like, if we open up just a little bit of that door to something else, I just think that the benefits we will receive are just as strong as what we're giving.
I could not agree with you more. Absolutely. I agree with every single thing you said. And, it's funny because, so back when we had adopted our son, and then I had this idea, and I kind of just like kept talking about it, and I would tell my husband about it, and a couple weeks went by and a couple months, and I just kept talking about it. And he's like, in a very, very nice way, he's like, well, why don't you just do it? When are you going to actually just do it? Because you just keep talking about it. And it was like, it was kind of that push I needed. But I think a lot of people have these ideas, but it's scary. Like, what if I do this and it's a total failure? What if I do this and nobody helps me? What if it doesn't work? And what I say to people is that I think that's okay. Even if you try something and it doesn't work, I think it's worth it to at least try it, because in trying, you're going to at least gain some attention, I guess. And, someone's going to hear about it, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a failure forever. Maybe that attempt just failed. Maybe you need to revamp it, or you need to, reach out and get some more help or whatever. But it's mainly that taking that first step. And like my husband said, okay, stop talking about it and just do it. And it was like, okay. So like I wrote this Facebook thing and I hit post, and I was like, oh my gosh, I did it.
What was it? What was your first step? Like, what was the post? What did it entail?
It was just literally like, hey, you guys know that we just adopted our son. My husband and our nurses, foster care, blah, blah, blah. I have this idea to make these boxes to give to kiddos. If you want to donate, bring me stuff or money. And people just started doing it. And I was like,
dropping it off on your front porch.
Dropping it off on my porch or bringing it to work, like nurses, people bringing it to work. And I was like, oh, okay.
And see, that's the thing. People want to help, but they don't know where to go to do that. And you gave people the opportunity.
That is exactly. I was like, just what I was going to say is that, there's a lot of people that want to help, and they don't necessarily know what to do or where to go. But if you give people an outlet or a way to help, oftentimes you're going to see more support than you could imagine, because people do want a way to help. And like you said, people are busy, and it's like the grind. You've got kids and this and that, and we've been in this pandemic and all this stuff. But at the heart of it, most people still do want to help, and they want to do good. And can most people stop and start a nonprofit? No, but they want a way to make it an impact. And so by me taking that chance, or someone else taking that chance, I think that you often find the support is out there. Because that was one of my fears. Like, what if nobody wants to help? But I think that by giving people a way to help, that support just sort of starts to trickle in, and then it starts to grow because people, talk about it and share it. And, things look very different now than they did in the beginning. Things have changed. And I mean, this project literally started with bins lining my bedroom, and then it overtook that, and then it went into our garage, and it overtook our garage, and then we had to, find a place, and now we have a real building with, a storefront. And so obviously things have evolved immensely since we started. But I go to an elementary school every year when they talk about being, they have a unit on like community helpers and making change. And I love going to the school, and it's always their fourth graders. And I talk about what I've done, and they ask questions, and it's really fun. And what I always tell them is, if I can do this, honestly, if I can do this, anyone can do something like this. I don't have a business degree. My background is like medical, like, I do that kind of stuff. I don't do this, but I just tell them, like, if you guys have an idea for something, if you see something that you feel like this is not okay, I want this to change, like whether it's, homelessness or pets or anything that you feel like this is not okay. I don't like the way this is happening. I don't like what is happening. You have the opportunity to make change. Every single person has the opportunity. Now, does it take time and effort and a lot of hard work? Yeah, it does. But if you want to commit to doing that, you can make change. And I always tell them, you guys are kids. And I know sometimes it feels like, well, what can we do? We're just kids. But, even kids can make big change. So I echo that same sentiment to adults. Like, if you're feeling like, gosh, I don't like how this is happening, or I don't like whatever, and you want to make change, if you have the time to put into it, go for it, because most likely it's going to gain some traction, and you're going to get some attention and some support, and you can go and try to make that change, whatever it is. But like you said, for the people who aren't able to do that or don't want to do that, I mean, not everybody wants to go start a nonprofit. I get that. But find that place that you can give whatever, your time, your money. Find that place that matters to you, and start giving, whatever that may be. Because like you said, in giving, you're going to get back double or triple what you're giving. And what I like about, our organization in particular, is that I tell everyone who I have contact with who's giving, it's like, those new clothes that you give are literally going to go straight into a box and go to a child, like, in our community. So I think that's nice for people to know, especially locally, when someone wants to support a local organization. It's nice for them to know, like, what you are giving is going straight back into these boxes. Other than, we have a little bit of overhead just from running
your building.
Yeah, the things that you have to, to do to run it. But everything you guys are giving is going straight back into this community. It could literally be a child who lives on your street, or a foster family who goes to your church, or your kids' church, or your kids' school. So I just encourage people. I was never really, we had a few places that, like, we gave to before I started this, but I just really, like you said, I was a new mom and busy, and I just didn't think a lot about nonprofits and charities and giving. And once I started this, I've had my eyes kind of open to a new world. And like you said, there's so many people who want to give, they just don't really know where. And so giving them an opportunity has been a really special part of this. That, I've had volunteers who come and they stick around because they love what they're doing. It's meaningful to them to come and pack a box and know that it's going to a child in need, or the person who comes and picks up the box and takes it to the foster home. Like, they get to see that, they get to see that initial response, and that sticks with people. And that's why they keep, they stick around with us and keep coming back to volunteer. And I saw it a lot, especially during COVID. I was worried those 2 years, just with everything going on, that, giving would be down. And, of course, people lost jobs and everyone was in turmoil. But I actually saw donations increase because I think we were in this time of just everyone was just in turmoil. And I think people just wanted to do something good. They wanted to feel good about something. And so they gave extra, they sent monthly donations. They bought items off of our wish list. I was really, really shocked in a good way to see that. I think COVID, kind of caused a little bit of an increase in giving because people were just at this place where they wanted to feel good about something. So yeah, I encourage anyone who feels like they want a bigger purpose to go and just find that thing. It doesn't necessarily mean starting your own, but maybe it's an hour a week that you go and you tangibly do something, just to be a little bit more involved and see what the work is that these groups are doing, or even just giving money. I mean, sometimes that sounds kind of a little impersonal, but all of these organizations need money. They need money to keep running. I mean, it's just a fact. So even giving money is a super helpful way to be involved in an organization. And then, you're honestly, every single person who donates money to us, I consider them part of our team. It's just like, I know it seems kind of funny, but I'm like, oh, we got a new team member. Like,
I love that.
Even you give $5, you're part of our team. Like, you are part of our mission. And so that would be my advice.
Hey everybody, a quick break here. I have a new sponsor that I'm so excited to tell you about, and we have a great discount code for you. Have you heard of Card My Yard? I know y'all have seen those big fun bubble letter signs celebrating someone, a birthday, an anniversary, and I'm thrilled to share this woman-owned business with you. Card My Yard is the original franchise yard greeting service that has transformed how many of us celebrate occasions. You can honor a birthday, say thank you to a friend, celebrate someone just because they deserve it in a big, bold way with Card My Yard. Founded in Austin, Texas, Amy Arnold and Jessica Stanley, who are going to be on the podcast next week or the week after, started Card My Yard to spread joy and create a positive impact in communities nationwide. It is so easy to use Card My Yard. And what a fun way to celebrate someone you love, even if they don't live in your town. Is your mom or dad celebrating an anniversary? Do you have a niece or nephew in another state and you want to make them feel special? You can have a Card My Yard at their house, even if you don't live in the same town. I'm so excited to share. We have a discount code for our listeners. You can use the code CMY, the number 5Y. CMY5Y. That's WHY. Like, why is everyone yelling? CMY5Y. And receive $5 off your next order when you purchase a birthday or saying anything greeting. Visit their website at cardmyyard.com. Again, that's cardmyyard.com. And listen, friends, I was just thinking about how much my kids would love this in the front yard, and for neighbors to walk by and be able to shout out happy birthday. That's one of the things I love about Card My Yard so much, is that it kind of brings the community in, and your neighbors can make you feel special as well. Because otherwise, how the heck would your neighbor know that it was your 7-year-old son's birthday or whatever, And also the story behind Card My Yard is super inspiring. And I had the ladies on. They're going to be on the show in a couple weeks. And we talked about friendship, because their business really started from a place of friendship. And we talk about that in the episode. So anyway, go celebrate someone you love. Go to cardmyyard.com and use the code CMY5Y. That's CMY, the number 5, and the word Y. Okay, friends, back to my conversation with Lyndsee. I'm curious, do people reach out to you like, I want to do this in Dallas, I want to do this in Indianapolis, and what is your response?
That is a great question. And yes, we have a lot. I actually was the first time I got one of those messages, I was so shocked. I'm like, oh my God, somebody wants to do this in another town. And I was so flattered. And that, well, first of all, that has been so surprising to me because, like I said, we're out in Oregon. And I remember about a year in, we got this huge donation of pajamas from this little girl in New Jersey who had like done a pajama collection. And I was like, just stunned. Like,
how'd she find out about you guys?
Just our website and social media. Somebody knew. I was just floored that someone in New Jersey had heard about us and liked what we were doing. And so, yes, we have received lots of support from across the United States, which just still blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. But yeah, lots of requests for like, hey, can I do this here? And, we are not big enough, and I do not have the capacity to,
what do you say, franchise it?
Well, that's to make us a franchise. I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth to do that right now. But I just tell people like, I am like, if you want to chat about this, it's more in depth than just email conversation usually. And so, I've had several phone calls with groups, and I just kind of give them the down low of how we started. I'm honest in that it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work. It's a slow process, but here's the basic things you need. You need to have a space to store stuff. You need to kind of have it's nice to have a support base to start out with. So maybe a church or some kind of a group where you have buy-in and you're not starting just with nobody. And here's what you do. You just kind of got to start, and then you got to get organized. And I don't let people use like our name, Boxes of Love.
Yeah, it's like a trademark.
Pick another name and go for it. I mean, this service is desperately needed. And so I just encourage anyone who wants to do something like that to do it. But just to know going in that it's not overnight, it's a long process, but it's well worth it. And it's a great, if you want to do it, go for it.
Okay. I'm like such a dreamer. I'm like dreaming for you. What if like a business person that had like a hefty financial investment came to you and they were like, hey, I want you to franchise this and I want to fund it. Would you do it?
Oh my gosh. That is such a good question.
Because I'm thinking about, I've read the founder of Charity Water. I've read his book. He had a kind of a situation at the beginning where he had this encounter, and it was like he was unable to really like pay his employees what he wanted to pay them because he wanted all of the donations to go straight to the water projects. But at some point he had to pay his employees. Yeah. So he had a big donor come in and say, hey, I'm going to fund that employee salary thing and like the roof over the head of your business so that everybody who donates $100, $20 can know that their money is going to the waters. How does that happen? Like some millionaire that's just like, I really feel like giving. But I mean, it's almost like, man, that would be a gift, right?
Well, that is funny that you say that because literally all the time I have this conversation with people and I'm like, well, I'm just waiting for someone with $1 million to be like, hey, do you want $1 million? And then I'd be like, yes. And then I can pay myself and I can have some employees and where does that person come from?
Just meet them at a networking event or on an airplane.
Totally. Let's just show up. But, I never say never. And if someone came along and had that as an offer, it's something I would definitely consider. Again, like I said, I do not have a business background, so I would, need people
like they would need to fund people. The business person that's
the person who is like an expert on this is like, this is a good idea or this is a bad idea. But no, I mean, I've thought about it. I've even, thought about just trying it, within Oregon, just since I'm here, but it's a big, it's a big undertaking and does cost money, and like, I feel like I'm very much on the page of the guy you were just talking about, because even for a long time I was like, oh, I felt bad like paying rent, because I'm like, people are getting money.
Sure.
And I'm using it for rent. I wanted like all the money to go to the boxes. And one day my sister was like, Lyndsee, it's okay. She's like, nonprofit, it's okay for a nonprofit to pay rent. Like, it's okay to pay employees. Like, it's part of how it works. But in my mind, I just had this, like, I can't, use the money on anything but the boxes, but you have to do that, and it's okay to do that. But yeah, that would be amazing. So maybe someone will pop up.
Yeah, if you're rich, if you have a rich uncle, guys, or aunt or neighbor, send the link. And not to say that like what you're doing right there in Oregon isn't like amazing enough. I just assume people are reaching out like, I want to do this here, and because it is so cool. How would someone who wants to? I feel like it's a confusing process, the foster care system, to say the least. And so even like, as I've been on the website to like browse around, like, how would you even apply to be a foster parent? I know you got to go through the classes, all the things. But someone who is like, I want to be a supporter, and they don't know of an organization like the Boxes of Love project that you have, like, what would their first step be to support the system without actually fostering?
There's a lot of ways. One thing that I always tell people is super simple, but you'd have to know somebody. But if you know of a foster family, let's start there. If you know a foster family, you're not going to be a foster parent yourself, but you want to help taking a meal to the foster family, especially if they've just gotten a new placement. Things are chaotic. There are doctor's appointments and court appointments and therapy appointments. You are busy. Taking a meal, sending a Grubhub gift card, honestly, just acknowledging this new thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly did not take, our son in and do this for any sort of attention. But I do remember that we took home a 5-week-old infant who was withdrawing from drugs, who was extremely irritable. And my husband and I were both working full time. Like, we didn't take maternity leave. And I feel bad, because I feel like I literally don't remember the first 6 months of his life, because we were just exhausted and, like, just making it work, doing all these things. And again, I am not faulting anyone, but it was like, there was no meals dropped off.
Mm-hmm.
There was no baby shower. We had our family who was amazing. But it wasn't like people weren't dropping by meals. People weren't coming to visit the baby, because it just was different. And so I think these families oftentimes get forgotten a little bit. They take in a child or a sibling set, and that's a huge deal. Like, their life has just shifted and changed. And so honestly, coming over and saying, I'm here to do a couple loads of laundry, you can't say no, showing up and just offering your help, offering your support, acknowledging that they're doing something really amazing. So that is my advice often when people know of a foster family, or even just reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'd really like to do this for a foster family. Who knows somebody?
Yeah.
Most people are going to know somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing you can do is reach out to your local, here in Oregon, it's called DHS, Department of Human Services. I think in other places might have different names, but reaching out to that, your local branch of that, and just saying, hey, do you know of any organizations that support foster families or foster kids? I'm sure that they do. And then just saying, does your branch have any needs? A lot of times there's things like DHS, when a foster family has a visit, when a foster child has a visit with biofamily, a lot of times it takes place at the DHS office, because they need to be supervised. And you could say, hey, can I drop off snacks for the visitation room, so that, they have snacks for when they're having visits with their family. Super small things that make a huge impact. So contacting your local DHS office, reaching out to foster families, even just doing maybe like a Google search in your area of foster family resources.
There could be an actual organization already. Yeah.
I know so many, even just real small organizations, but that are there to help, be a resource for foster families and for children in foster care.
So good. Okay, Lyndsee, we got to wrap up, but
Okay.
if people want to support Boxes of Love, they should go to...
They can go to our website, which is www.boxesofloveproject.org.
Project.
That's got basically all of our information. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, which is more of just, day-to-day stuff. But there's links for, donating money. There's links to an Amazon wish list where we have items of the month that you can order. They get sent directly to us.
Oh, that's good. That's cool. That makes it so easy.
Super easy. You just, click a button and it comes straight to us. It's easy for you. It's easy for us. And I feel like, let me just really quickly, we have to wrap up, but
go ahead.
For people who don't know or haven't seen, I don't feel like I ever really totally explained what was in the box of love, but it's a big, like 66 quart bin. And what we do is the infant boxes have new clothes 0 to 24 months. So baby has stuff to grow into for up to 2 years. And then the top is just like, we call it a little baby shower in a box. It's got baby essentials, everything, bibs, diapers, burp cloths, toiletries, toys, pacifiers, all that stuff. And then the boxes for older kids, we actually serve kids 0 to 18. And those boxes, we get a request from a social worker or a nurse, whoever, with the child's clothing size, any specific likes or dislikes. And then that child gets about 15 outfits and pajamas in their current size.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Plus another 10 to 15 in the next size up so that they also have stuff to grow into. And then their boxes often spill out into bags and stuff because it's just bigger. But then, games, toys, books, any special, if they are, into sports or whatever, we try to really customize it and give them some extra fun stuff, plus a backpack and a duffel bag and, whatever. So that's just so people kind of know what the box is. A lot of people are thinking like a shoebox, but this is a little bit bigger. And each box is valued between like $500 and $600. And like I said, it's all new and it belongs to the child. There's a note in the box to the foster family that just says, if this child moves to a new foster home or moves back to bio family, please send everything with them. This belongs to them. And there's a little sticker on the top that says this box belongs to, and then they can fill in their name. So that just gives people a little bit more of an idea of what is in the boxes.
That's so special.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are like pieces in like a stuffy or,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. They all get a stuffed animal and a little, we call them a lovey. It's like the little, like a square piece of fabric with a little stuffed animal. And I just always think like, even when they've outgrown all the clothes in their box, like they have a few of these items that really can go with them, wherever and offer a sense of security. And
yeah, I took my favorite stuffy with me to college. I mean, I think that's really special. Okay, Lyndsee, what's something professionally or personally that you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
Oh, that is a really hard question. I just would like to have my life organized. not constantly feel like I have a running to-do list. I would like to travel more, like my kids are getting to the age where it's not as hard to take them on trips. And I just have I see, I look at bloggers who are like, oh, we just pulled our kids out of school and we just travel. Like, that would be really fun. But
you must make a lot of money on your Instagram advertisements.
Exactly. I would love to travel more with our kids as they get a little bit older and just see more of the country and the world.
Yeah. Did you say your kids are 9 and 11?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to one of my neighbors about that this morning. I mean, my youngest is 3, so we're still a little bit younger, but 3, 5, 7, and 9. And it's like, I feel like this is such a sweet spot because we're done with diapers and potty training and all that. And it's like, we're not teenagers yet or even preteen just yet. And it's just like, there's a lot of independence, but they still need you a lot. So there's just it's like such a sweet spot.
I could not agree with you more. It's like you're not totally uncool yet. But they still kind of want to be with you. There's a little pushback, but still just this perfect age for doing like family things where,
you're not chasing them around.
Totally.
Which I am chasing my little 2 around still, but I was more gearing that towards my my 7 and 9-year-old. But yeah. Oh, it's so good.
It's a fun age for sure.
What's the best, most recent book you've read? Do you have time to read?
I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I've switched to audiobooks because I do love to read, and I was feeling really disappointed at like the lack of reading because or I lay down at night to read and I'm asleep in 2 seconds. I'm like, oh my gosh. The Lies That Bind.
Okay.
I felt, I don't often like share books, but after I read that one, I was like, everyone needs to read this. I felt like I knew the people in the book, and I was legitimately sad when it was over. I was like, oh, like I felt like I lost my friends. I
don't think I've read that one. Okay, I'm excited to read it. Okay.
It's really good.
Oh, I am very excited. Is there a trip that you've taken with your boys and your husband that you recommend to the listeners?
Well, I feel like we're lucky, super lucky to be on the West Coast because it's pretty close for us to go to Hawaii versus, from on the East Coast. We went to Hawaii last year, and it was, my husband and I had been before, but not with our boys. And they loved it. They have not stopped talking about that trip since we got back. I don't know. It's just something about the Hawaiian air is magical. It just smells like beautiful flowers and it's kind of laid back. And I definitely, if you could get to Hawaii, I would highly recommend it. Our kids loved it. We loved it.
What part did you go to, and did you stay at like a resort?
We did. We went to Maui, and we stayed at, it's called the Hanua Kai, and it's a resort. It has several pools and a water slide, and we
like a kids program.
I don't think they actually had a kids program.
Okay.
But I know a lot of them do, and we ended up actually being there at the same time as some friends and my sister and her family.
Oh,
and
fun!
It was just perfect, But even if you got a condo, I mean, honestly, I don't feel like you could go to a bad place in Hawaii. Like anywhere in Hawaii is perfect. We've also been to Kauai and loved that too. They're both just, it's just like paradise.
There's something really special too about, I guess there's something really special about going on a trip with just your family, but especially with kids, if like cousins can be there, or like, it just makes it that much more exciting.
It totally does.
Special for different reasons.
Because you kind of have, added playmates, and I agree. It's really nice to sometimes be just your family, but it's also way more fun when you have friends or cousins there. So yeah, it was such a nice trip.
All right. The last message. The last question. What is your last message to leave with our audience today?
Well, I just want to thank everyone, first of all, for listening. If you stuck with us this whole time, I just really appreciate that. And like you had kind of mentioned, and I mentioned, I encourage everyone to find that thing or that place. It doesn't even have to be boxes of love. You will get so much out of giving a little bit more of yourself to something else. You'll get back more than what you give, whether that's money, whether that's your time, whether that's buying an item and dropping it off, whether that's setting up a collection drive for your organization. I just encourage people to do that, because we get so caught up in our day to day, and we got to make money, and we got to take care of our kids and our parents and go to sports and this and that. And you get caught up in it. You can't help it. And everybody does. But if you can take a little bit of time to just say, hey, what fills my cup? Do I care about, is it kids? Is it pets? Is it whatever it may be? Find that thing that really makes you passionate and that you feel strongly about, and give just a little bit, because I feel like you will find that your life starts to become just a little bit more full when you know that you're doing something kind of bigger than yourself.
I love that. Thank you, Lyndsee.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so excited.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today. Thanks, Lyndsee, for sharing your story. We are so grateful you all are listening to this podcast. Give us a follow on social media. We are Why Is Everyone Yelling over there. I am Lyndsee Wunn 626 personally on Instagram. Would love to connect with you. there as well. And you can find Lyndsee's organization, Boxes of Love Project, on Instagram, Boxes of Love Project. If you do love this podcast, give us some love and share it with your people. Leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Leave us a rating. I guess you can't leave reviews on Spotify yet, but a rating would be helpful. Ratings and reviews are just a huge way you can just help grow this podcast. It's a free way you can help the show and support the show. And so I thank every single one of you who have already done so. All right, friends. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and we're going to come back next week, next Tuesday, with another great episode for you. Thanks for being here. Have a great day.